With the 2020 draft behind us now, I thought that I'd take this opportunity to provide an in-depth analysis of all the players that the Carolina Panthers drafted. And this took me forever, so I'm glad that that's finally all behind us. So this year, the Carolina Panthers actually set a record. The Carolina Panthers are the first team in the NFL to draft 7 defensive players in one draft. The first team ever. That's crazy. So this year, the Carolina Panthers selected Derek Brown, D-tackle Auburn, Yetur Gross-Matos, D-end Penn State. And let me know if I'm saying that name or any of the other names wrong in the comments or something. Jeremy Chin, safety from Southern Illinois. Troy Pride Jr., corner from Notre Dame. Kenny Robinson, safety from West Virginia. Bravion Roy, D-tackle from Baylor. And Stanley Thomas Oliver, corner from FIU, or Florida International University. With Carolina's first pick in the draft, they picked Derek Brown, D-tackle out of Auburn. He stayed till he was a senior in Auburn and ended up getting SEC Defensive Player of the Year and was on the All-SEC team. So here's Derek Brown against LSU, and notice that right now he's lined up over the tackle.
Joe Burrow all by his lonesome inside his own 5-yard line on 3rd down and 12.
Tough call, 3rd and long, 3 sacks already.
Burrow in trouble again, scrambles away from it. He's going to keep it, trying to get to the sticks, and he does.
So as y'all saw in the last clip and can see in this one, Derek Brown actually lines up a little bit to the left of the tackle and engages with the center. And he does this because he's just freakishly quick for a guy his size, and he gets a great jump when the snap comes. So once the ball is snapped, he gets a great jump because, I don't know, he's just instinctive like that and can do that. And combined with his quickness, gets right over to the center before he even expects it and even sees it coming. And he goes right through him. He powers through the center and then collapses the pocket and makes Joe Burrow roll out, which was better for the Tigers, but who cares?
Joe Burrow all by his lonesome inside his own 5-yard line on 3rd down and 12.
Tough call, 3rd and long, 3 sacks already.
Burrow in trouble again, scrambles away from it. He's going to keep it, trying to get to the sticks, and he does.
Here's Derek Brown again in the same game, just a little bit later, and he had a great game against LSU.
Struggling so.
We talked about his toughness last week, and he just took a wicked lick. Here's Derek Brown.
So I think this play kind of shows us a lot of the things that Derek Brown can do really well. So we see his real good power that we see from him right off the start, right into this O-guard. And we see his quick jump for him to get engaged with the O-guard before he's really even stood up yet. And then we see the nice penetration he gets by just driving him back and getting into the backfield, and the nice run defense. And then we see the elite reach he has to get all the way around and get the Clyde Edwards-Helaire while engaged with the blocker here. We'll go in depth in a second.
Struggling so.
We talked about it.
So here, all in the span of like a second, we can see Derek Brown's power and quick burst off the line, because he just bursts off the line and gets right into the face of the guard and immediately just starts to push him back and get him off balance. And since he burst off the line so quickly, he already was off balance. So his burst and his power and his quickness all matched up for a terrible matchup against his guard.
His toughness last week.
So here we can see all the penetration he gets as he just drives the guard right into the backfield to meet Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I know it's looking a little bit like a face mask, but I don't think it is. So, and we also see that elite reach as he's engaged with the blocker right now and actually, fending him off. Meanwhile, he's tackling Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and later he's going to just shed him off and go full for Helaire.
He just took a wicked lick. Here's Derek Brown.
Struggling so.
We talked about his toughness last week, and he just took a wicked lick. Here's Derek Brown.
Here's Derek Brown against LSU for a third time, and I promise that they're not all against LSU.
Burrow across the middle. Edwards-Helaire.
So here we can see Derek Brown showing off his slap move, and the slap move is really good. But I just don't like this clip because of how Joe Burrow's knees go back and stuff on the tackle, but whatever. So, like I said, he has a great slap move and a great power rush, but that's really about it. He doesn't have, many tools in his toolbox, if you know what I'm saying. He's got the power rush and the slap move, but then he doesn't really have like a spin move or power to speed transition or vice versa. So he could definitely, get a few more weapons in his arsenal, but the power rush is great and the slap move is great, but he could still stand from getting a bit more tools. Yeah, so here we see him execute a slap move essentially to perfection. He engages with the blocker, then, shoves him over with his left hand, and then gets his, dips his shoulder and cuts in. He doesn't even need to here because he shoves him so far out the way. But, gets his shoulder on one side of him so that he can slip right by him and then get to the quarterback.
Burrow across the middle. Edwards-Helaire.
Finally switching it up as he's here playing D-tackle against Clemson.
Jordan always says when you have the lead, fourth quarter pass rush is so important to putting a game away. And we've seen it.
So this play not only shows off his insane power, but also his great awareness and run defense. So here he has the great awareness to see that this is a QB power play because the QB takes a snap and the running back runs out. And he doesn't just think, that there isn't a run play. He's looking at the quarterback the entire time and is able to, dissect the play and see that it's a QB power. So then once he sees that, he looks for the hole and sees that he's kind of on the edge of the hole. And then from there on, he just uses his incredible power to drive the O-lineman right into the hole. And then after that, just shove him aside and get the sack.
Jordan always says when you have the lead, fourth quarter.
At this point, the tackle's lost all control. He just gets totally overpowered and is just getting pushed straight into the hole for what ends up being a sack for Derek Brown.
Pass rush is so important to putting a game away, and we've seen it.
Here's Derek Brown playing 3 technique in kind of a wide set against Florida.
And they're using all of the clock here, too. Trask. And he's hit. Ball is out. The big fella's got it again, Derek Brown.
So a couple minutes ago, I said that clip showed, everything that Derek Brown is real good at. And I think that this clip does the exact same thing. It shows him, with great power to get in there and get through a double team. He had a great jump and great quickness to get in there and engage with the guard and also bring in the center's help. He had really good awareness in there because once he was close enough, he was able to tip the ball out. And then once he tips the ball out, he doesn't, look around and not know what to do. He immediately goes into ball hawk mode and finds the ball and catches it, which, like the announcer said, I guess it's an interception. I don't even know. And then tries to run it back, but he wasn't going anywhere.
And they're using all of the clock here, too.
So here we can see the combination of quickness off the line, and power all leads to Derek Brown just plowing through both of these offensive linemen and getting to the quarterback here. And then, not even a second later, we can see Derek Brown with his good awareness to see as Trask is bringing the ball back, he can actually reach up and swat it down and then somehow also catches the ball in midair, because as soon as he hits the ball, he goes from, rusher to ball hawk and seeks out the ball and gets the ball and then hauls downfield.
Trask. And he's hit. Ball is out. The big fella's got it again, Derek Brown.
And then I like this next clip that I'm going to show y'all in just a second because it's kind of focused in on Derek Brown, so you can really see him doing what he does and powering through, and then the awareness to slap the ball out and then seeking out the ball after the fumble or whatever, interception, whatever it was.
Hard to deal with.
From that defensive tackle position. Goes up against a veteran player, just pushes right. Actually, he got two guys. Heggie had him at first, number 61, but
I think that when I slow it down, it's the best. As you can see him get the contact there and slap his wrist, causing the fumble. Then immediately his eyes are stay on the ball, and so he's able to catch it and then run with it. So overall, I think Derek Brown is a really good player. He can line up in any gap. Like in the first play, he lined up in the C gap, and in the second play, he lined up in the A gap. And then he actually played a little bit of D-end in college, but I really don't think that that's going to translate into the NFL. He can maybe play in a pinch if, like, in a 3-4 maybe, but I don't think he's going to play D-end much. He has really great power. He's an absolute powerhouse. And he could be ready from day one. So if he has to, he could just be a starter straight out the gun, which he might have to because, we don't have very many D tackles. So he's really quick and has a quick, jump. Like, once the ball is snapped, he's off his line and getting all up in the guard's face, which is really good to not give the guard any time to read and react or anything. He has a really nice slap move and a really great power move, but aside from those two things, doesn't really have a ton of moves in his arsenal. But then again, the slap move and the power move are, like, real good. He's got good reach and can play the run and is a really good pass rusher. So overall, I think he's a really good player, and I think that he was definitely worthy of the number 7 pick. With their second pick in the draft, the Carolina Panthers took Yetur Gross-Matos, a D-end out of Penn State. He stayed until he was a junior at Penn State and still got the all-Big Ten team. So here's Gross-Matos playing D-end, and he can play right or left against a really good Ohio State O-line.
2nd and 10 at midfield. Dobbins tries to break it outside, runs into Gross.
So as we can see in this clip, he has really good strength for a D-end. I'm pretty sure it used to be like a D tackle and then slimmed down and switched to D-end or something like that. But he has good strength for a D-end, and then he gets away, throws his blocker really, and then sets the edge. He sets a hard edge and makes sure that Dobbins isn't going to be able to get outside of him, which I love. I love it when people set the edge.
2nd and 10 at midfield.
So I love this play because, one, he just wrecks the tackle and just throws him aside. And then also, I think he's in a great position here. So if J.K. Dobbins was going to try to bounce us even more to the outside, he would end up having to be like 5 yards deep just to get around him. If he even can, he'd have to be like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage just to get around Gross-Matos. Then, if he was that deep, there's the corner and the other corner who are both right in position to make the tackle if he has to bounce it all the way outside. So, and then otherwise he's going to have to bounce it inside, which he really can't do. So he ends up just having to kind of try to jam it in for really just nothing.
Dobbins tries to break it outside, runs into Gross.
Here's Gross-Matos playing D-end in the Michigan game. So Gross-Matos is a solid run defender and has a nice slap move, as we'll see here. So he puts an arm in the tackle to keep the distance and then shoves him aside like a perfect slap move right there. So tackle sees him, so he dips his shoulder just to get right around the tackle and then is able to go right into the running back and make a play at the line of scrimmage. So as we saw there, his slap move is real good. Puts his arm in the tackle and then uses his left arm to push off the tackle and get around and dip his shoulder around the tackle. Then, also, right after that, he can, identify the running back and where he's going and that he's not going to be coming outside. So he dips his shoulder right around the other guard and is able to go in and make the tackle at the end of the play. Here's Gross Matos again playing D-end, which is his normal position against Iowa. So there's Gross Matos right there. So he's going to rush in, and he's going to try his slap move. But when that doesn't work, he's just going to throw him out the way, then get the sack anyways. So he has really good strength here, we can see, because he just throws this huge tackle out the way with him being a D-end. But we also see that, when his slap move doesn't work, he doesn't really know what to do. So his slap move didn't really work there. And then, I guess he got lucky because the tackle was in the right position and he has the strength, so not really luck, but he was able to, salvage it by just throwing him out the way there at the end. So like I said earlier, his toolbox isn't really full yet, and he seems kind of raw. So, he's a great athlete, and he can tackle, and he sets the edge real well, and he's got a great slap move, and he's got some power behind him, and with a not, huge frame. But I think that he's just kind of raw, He needs to just get some more experience under his belt. It seems like maybe he got into football recently because he doesn't seem all too experienced with playing football, and his football IQ is not really there, I don't think. But I think that, with the right coaching, he'll definitely get there soon. This is Gross Matos and Penn State against Indiana in the 2019 season. So 2 knocks I have on him, and they both really bother me, is his jump off the line is kind of slow. He's kind of slow off the line. And then his intensity which are both in this play, is not so great at times. Because sometimes he's great with his intensity. But then sometimes it's like he's a whole different person. And his ball get off too. Sometimes they're both great. Sometimes they're both just off. Sometimes one or the other. And it kind of bothers me. So, look, because right here, everyone on the Tigers' D-line is either already engaged with the blocker or about to go and, do their little pattern. And he still has his hand in the ground at this point. So, and then we can also see, how we're about to see, that he's just not very intense sometimes. So sometimes he'll be rushing and he won't actually be going full force trying to, actually push a guy off or do whatever. He'll just be kind of standing there, not really knowing what to do, not really having a plan. So that's another thing. Sometimes he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do when he's rushing. So he's going to try to do maybe his little slap move, or maybe he's going to try to, I don't know, just push someone over. And if that doesn't work, he doesn't really have a backup. So overall, I think Gross Matos is still a pretty good pick, but I think we kind of reached a little bit. I think he's got good size and athleticism, and he's good against the run and good at setting edges, but I think he's just a little bit raw. He needs to get smarter, and his pass rushing is okay, but the main thing is that he's inconsistent, because sometimes he's just totally, no ferocity, no intensity, none of that, and he doesn't really do much, can't really get the pass rush going. But then sometimes he's all over the place and, exploding off the line, getting right up in the guard's face and just kind of being all over them and pushing right through them. But, then again, I really do not like inconsistency, and I would hate to see him be inconsistent with the Panthers. With our third pick in the draft, Carolina Panthers took Jeremy Chin, strong safety out of Southern Illinois. He was a consensus All-American in 2019. So this is Jeremy Chin against North Dakota State University, and this quarterback is a Russian quarterback.
Into Delta. Lance is going to keep it up the middle. Look at Trey Lance have a big burst and then...
So one of Jeremy Chin's strengths is his open field tackling. He's a really good open field tackler. So this play, I mean, y'all are probably thinking it was just a quarterback. That's probably an easy tackle. This quarterback, however, is 6'3", 220, and had 30 rushes in one game as a quarterback. So it's safe to say this guy would probably be pretty hard to bring down. And this is a nice tackle from, wrapped him all the way up and was kind of at a disadvantage from, position-wise. So I really like this play, and this was just one of the many I could have used for his open field tackling. Here's Jeremy Chin against Youngstown State, and the rankings are D2 rankings.
Pass here out of under center. Well, you called it. Connor James with a Romo moment, but it's incomplete.
As y'all can see, Jeremy Chin is pretty fast. So he also has great ball skills on top of that and instincts for where the ball is going to be. So this play, he was kind of behind the receiver, and it looks like that the receiver is going to be wide open if he just throws it out a little bit ahead of him, which the quarterback does. But, I mean, he's just all over this. Look, he starts out from not the best position and then ends up recovering with his speed and length and is able to break up the pass and get in the middle of it. And he does this all the time with his great ball skills, and he's just really good at this type of stuff. So this is Jeremy Chin in the same game against Youngstown State, and he's lined up at box safety.
Might have caught a helmet that hit him right on the ankle, so dealing with that right now.
Thank you, John. Mays is sacked in the backfield. The ball is out.
It's Chen. Chen came on the safety blitz.
So one of the things I see is that he's lined up at box safety right here. And usually he plays strong safety, and he can play linebacker and a little bit of corner if he needs to, and that's because he's a very versatile player. So this versatility is, I think, a theme of Matt Rule's draft this year. He's drafting a lot of versatile players. So another thing is his speed. This is some crazy speed here, and he goes flying into the quarterback before the quarterback even sees it. And, I mean, the quarterback doesn't see it coming, so he's kind of mid-throw and gets the ball knocked right out before he even knows what's happening, really.
Might have caught a helmet that hit him right on the ankle, so dealing with that right now.
Thank you, John. Mays is sacked in the backfield. The ball is out.
It's Chen. Chen came on the safety blitz.
So here's Jeremy Chin against Youngstown State again, but a different year.
Hole. Van Gorder goes under center. Hands it off. Little shake and bake move.
So there's Jeremy Chin playing that box safety again. So he's going to shift over and then realize that he's in the wrong position and cut it back and get into this hole that he probably could have and should have gone through. And if he would have cut through there, he would have been over because Jeremy Chin was right there. So I like Jeremy Chin, and I think one of the things is he's fast and he can cover a lot of ground, which, by the way, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I watched 3 full games of his, and almost all of his snaps, he played like the open field side of the ball, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he played whatever. If they were on one hash, he was playing on the opposite side. And that's because he's real fast and he can cover a whole lot of ground. And he's also big. So he's like a big box safety, linebacker, strong safety type with the real big range to cover all this ground. So he's a good open field tackler, and that's always good. Some of the things that I saw was that he was kind of a leader and vocal on the field, which is nice. And he doesn't give up. He won't just, if someone touches him on a block or something, or if the play's, on the other side of the field, he won't just stop. He's always running over there and always trying to make a play. So I like this pick, and I think that it's a good choice. With the Carolina Panthers' 4th pick in this year's draft, they took Troy Pride Jr., a corner from Notre Dame. Along with being an NFL cornerback from Notre Dame, he was also a track sprinter there. So here's Troy Pride Jr. and Notre Dame, and they're going up against Georgia right here.
Eli Wolf in at tight end for Georgia. Brian Herring gets the carry up the middle. And Herring down.
So I can't stress enough how much I love someone setting the edge or in gap play, which he does perfectly right here. So he just, whole time, he's just setting the edge and following through. So right here, he makes sure he cannot get outside of him. And even from the start, he's setting so that he can't get outside of him. And then just follows it through the entire way in. So a lot of people are talking about how they think he's afraid of contact and afraid of tackles and stuff. And I think that's true, but to an extent. Because I think that he plays his gap real well. And he's really conservative on tackles. So, I mean, because you'll never see him get his ankles took. Because he's always, stepping back and making sure that he's going to make the tackle. So if he does make the tackle, he's going to make the tackle. And he's playing his gap most of the time. But then there are times where he'll just kind of sit back and when he really should just step up and, get on the tackle and make the tackle. Sometimes he'll just stay back and, let someone else handle that.
Eli Wolf there, that tight end for Georgia. Brian Harrion gets the carry up the middle. And Harrion got on.
So there's Troy Pride Jr. at the top of the screen, and try to focus in on him and not really the ball.
3rd and 11 for Shermer. They throw middle, and it is incomplete. It is Love on the coverage along with Jalen Elliott. Kalijah Lipscomb was the intended receiver. Didn't look back for the ball, but it'll bring up 4th down.
Boy, I'm sorry, he's inside here. Julian Love stays underneath because he knows he has deep help, stays in position.
So just ignore all these other guys on the bottom for a second and just look how tight this coverage is. Because Troy's coverage is amazing. He's amazing in coverage. And look how tight this is on this little slant. He doesn't let him get anything. He has no space, and then he's physical and he feels out the route and then doesn't let him even cut in at all.
Boy, I'm sorry, he's inside here. Julian Love stays underneath because he knows he has deep help, stays in position.
So here he is again against Vanderbilt, and it's kind of hard to see him because he's kind of under the clock.
Clarence Ellis, great name from the late 60s. 3rd and 8, under pressure. Shermer is complete.
So I guess just ignore the result of the play because this was amazing coverage. I mean, I don't think Troy Pride really could have played that any better. There was the little comeback route, and the comeback route should honestly always be open against man coverage. Because if you're man, you're running with him, and then he cuts back immediately, and it should just always be open against man coverage, which is what he was in. And Troy Pride was able to stay with him, and he was easily, he got the pass breakup. He swatted the ball. Somehow this guy ended up coming up with it anyways. So here he is again in this Georgia game, and he's going to be in man coverage on this play.
Down at 7.
They could have called that 3rd look.
All out blitz. Fromm lets it fly. Back shoulder. Cager.
So like I said, I think that he's exceptional in coverage, except when his back is to the ball. When his back is to the ball and he's facing the receiver, I think it's just not a very good equation. He tends to lose these a lot because this is just one of the clips that I could have used in here. I could have used a number of them. I don't know what it is. I think he doesn't really go up for them. He doesn't challenge the 50-50 balls enough. And so usually it comes down in the receiver's hands. And, eventually, I think that he'll be real good if he could be more aggressive. And I think that this is one of those times. What he should do here is play the receiver, and wherever the receiver goes, he goes, and he shadows him and gets his hands in the way. But instead, I guess he didn't process it quick enough or something, or wasn't, on it, and just kind of wasn't there to challenge the ball, and wasn't there to, put any pressure on him. So taking everything into consideration, I think that this is a really great pick. I really like Troy Pride Jr., and I think that where a lot of people see his weakness as, not being aggressive enough on tackles and stuff, I see that as, a little bit of a weakness, but not as much, because some of it is, being conservative on tackles and not getting faked out and blocking up the running game, playing his gap and, holding the edge. And then I do think, though, that if he gets more aggressive, he will be a lot better because, like I said, the balls where his backer to the ball, it's kind of game over for him on those. and sometimes he really won't be willing to challenge a runner or won't be willing to challenge someone in the air. So I think that if he gets a little bit more aggressive, then he'll be a great player. But I think his coverage skills are excellent. He excels and shines in coverage, and I think that he's going to be a great player. And I think that he was a steal, honestly. With our sixth pick in the sixth round, we took Kenny Robinson, a safety from West Virginia. Along with being from West Virginia, he also actually played in the XFL. He played for the St. Louis Battlehawks and started all 5 games of the season since it was shortened because of coronavirus. He was actually voted Star of the Week one week, and so he is pretty well known in the XFL. So this is West Virginia against Oklahoma, and that's actually going to be Kyler Murray at quarterback.
On 3rd down and 8, but they rush 3 and try to cover to the end zone, and a bad mistake by Murray.
Kenny Robinson is a free safety and has exceptional ball skills. He can go up and get the ball at any high point because he's also really athletic. So the combination of ball skills and athleticism and the ability to catch is really good for a free safety. And he may not have the best range, but I mean, if it's in his zone and he's able to pick it off, he's going to pick it off. So here's Kenny Robinson as a St. Louis Battlehawk against the DC Renegades.
Blitz coming. Jones in trouble. Stays alive. Points deep. Releasing deep. And it's underthrown and intercepted.
So this is going back to ball skills and athleticism again because this was an amazing catch. Diving over top of another guy. And it was just a great catch all around. But also, look where he's playing. He's in the XFL because he spent a season in the XFL before actually getting drafted. So he has this pro experience and, he knows what it's like to play at the pro level and he's been there before.
Look at, I think he gets his hands under that, KB. That's an unbelievable.
This is in the same Oklahoma game as before, playing against Kyler Murray.
Clinched its spot with a win today at Kansas. Kyler Murray in a 14-all tie, going deep, and there's Hollywood Brown again. And away.
Well, he's got single coverage on Keith Washington, but the safety, Kenny Robinson, bites on an underneath route. He's got to be deep to help.
So right now, West Virginia is running a cover 3. It's hard to tell, but you can tell by the outside safeties and Kenny Robinson dropping back. And he's responsible for the middle third, but he gets baited by this little hook route right here by the tight end. So he's going to come up and try to pressure that. So Kyler Murray has a wide open hole in the middle deep third where he should be, leaving him trailing, and Hollywood Brown just almost run into the end zone, but he gets down at the 1.
Well, he's got single coverage on Keith Washington, but the safety, Kenny Robinson, bites on an underneath route. He's got to be deep to help.
So Kenny Robinson, he has really good ball skills, and he can catch the ball, and if it's in his zone, he's going to catch it. If he can get there, he's going to catch it. But his range is kind of small, so there's not a lot he can do if it's not in his zone, which isn't very big. Also, his tackling is mediocre. It's kind of inconsistent. But the biggest problem is his football IQ. His football IQ is just not really there. And, I mean, you'd think it'd be after going to the XFL, but it really isn't. And so he ends up just not really knowing where his zone is, like not knowing, how to pass off receivers and stuff on the routes. So I don't really know about this pick, but I think it's still a pretty good pick in the 6th round. In the 6th round of the draft, we took Bravion Roy, a D-tackle from Baylor. He was actually coached by Matt Rule this year, so the both of them are moving up to the NFL level and at the same team, so they should be able to mesh together. So here's Bravion Roy, and it's actually kind of hard to see him, but he's behind the linebacker right there. So Bravion Roy's going to get double teamed here, which kind of opens up his teammates. But also, he's kind of slippery for such a big guy, so he's going to slip right in between the O-lineman right there and get to the quarterback with his team. Here he is playing D-tackle in the same Oklahoma game.
SEC title game against Georgia by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Led them to 2 touchdowns to win the game.
So here, I don't really think his run game is particularly strong, but I do think that was a really nice slap move, and I think he has a nice slap move, which appears to be a, recurring theme here, the slap move. And I just like the way how he's, he kind of slippery. So he can fit between the linemen, and he hit a nice slap move and was able to get a straight shot into the backfield right at the running back.
SEC title game against Georgia by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Led them to 2 touchdowns to win the game.
So I like Bravion Roy, for a number of reasons. One, he's a good finesse guy as a D-tackle, which you don't really see a lot. 2, he has a really nice slap move along with pretty much everyone else all the other D linemen that have been drafted. 3, he can kind of wiggle between the O linemen and he's kind of slippery. And 4, he's already worked with Matt Rule. He knows the scheme and stuff and knows Matt Rule, and Matt Rule knows him, so he'll probably be able to work something out with him. But on the downside, he gets eaten up easily because it just seems like that, sometimes he can just get clamped up really easily for a long period of time. And then also, the one killer thing for me, honestly, is his physical traits. He's on the smaller side and he has short arms, which is just not very good for a D lineman because he can't really do much. He can't, engage at a distance with blockers, and obviously there's nothing he can do about that. So I think that is just kind of a turnoff for me. But I don't know about this pick. We'll have to see how it plays out. But as of now, I'm kind of undecided. I'm just waiting to see what happens in the offseason and stuff. Our last pick of the 2020 NFL Draft was Stanley Thomas Oliver, a corner from Florida International University. So this is a funny story, actually. He's a very good corner, but he used to play wide receiver in college and actually switched between his sophomore and junior year because he started, joking around and covering his friends, covering his teammates. So he was just joking around and, guarding them and stuff and one-on-ones, and eventually that gave him an NFL career.
Hamstring injuries.
This is Stanley Thomas Oliver against Miami, and the second clip is too. They're just at different time.
With a straight face, he said that? Huh. Williams throw over the middle. It deflected and intercepted. My goodness! Another turnover. Sage Lewis, right side.
So this is a nice play, and I think he was able to identify the route early, which lets him get the good break and be able to get his left hand in there to break up the pass and then cause the interception, obviously. And it was really good for getting his hand in there because that was, a tight window for him to get it in. And so I think he did a really nice job getting that. Here he is at the top of y'all's screen playing in a different game against Miami.
It sounds familiar.
It sure does. There's a team in Crimson that knows something about that.
It sounds familiar.
So one thing I like about him is his play recognition because obviously he is just starting to break on this route. Just seconds after he snapped the ball because he already knows what's coming. I'm pretty sure he was a wide receiver some other time, so he knows, he kind of knows his way around the wide receivers, and so he has this good play recognition to allow him to break on the routes early and get there early and make a tackle and do whatever.
It sure does. There's a team in Crimson that knows something about that.
So I think Stanley Thomas Oliver is a good 7th round pick because he's a developmental prospect. So he's gonna, develop and become a better corner because I think he switched to corner recently from wide receiver, so he doesn't really know how to play corner yet. And you can see that because he's really conservative. He doesn't really, he isn't overly aggressive, doesn't leave it all on the field. And I think he's a little bit overly conservative too. So his tackling, it's not so good. But the biggest thing I think is that he really didn't make an impact on the field. I think he was overly conservative to a point where he didn't really do much. But the routes, he has really good play recognition, which is why I think he needs to get a little bit more aggressive. Same thing as Troy Pride Jr. Because if he gets more aggressive, he can, break on the routes. Because he has really good play recognition. And he can break on the routes and then get pass breakups, get some tackles. And I think he'll be a good player. And in a couple years, I think that he'll get all this and become a pretty good player. So I think that it's a pretty good pick for the future with our 7th round pick. So all things considered, I think the Carolina Panthers drafted really well. Because, first off, the Lord knows that we really need some defense. And we drafted a lot of solid players. The one player that I'm not entirely sold on is Bravion Roy, the D tackle from Baylor. His physical traits, like, his arm length and his size, just aren't really there. And there's obviously nothing that he can do about it. And I think that it might be some kind of connection between him and Matt Rule. So with this new draft class and everything else considered, I think that obviously the Panthers are going to be pretty poor next year. We're in full rebuild mode, and no amount of CMC is going to carry us to a playoff or, the Super Bowl or anything. I do think that in a couple years when these guys develop and we get new guys and we get, some upgrades in different positions, then I think that we're going to be a really solid team and a real contender. So thank y'all for watching, and let me know if y'all disagree with anything or if there's anything I can do to improve, any criticism y'all have. Just let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to, work that into whatever I do next. And so, yeah, thank you.